say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yo, they got Charlie Kirk, bro. I've never been happier.
Never believe the reason I'm smiling. And it has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. Nothing to do with Charlie Kirk.
I would say pour one out for Kirky Boy, but I don't waste good beer on little bitches.
I haven't posted on TikTok in a long time, but I'm gonna now because rest in peace, Bozo!
Charlie Kirk just got put down like a fucking dog in Utah, and I could not be happier. Praise fucking be.
I do not, and I will not, ever feel bad when bad people get what the fuck they deserve.
Charlie Kirk got shot? That's awful. That's so sad. Hope he recovers well.
I just heard that someone shot Charlie Kirk? Dang it. Ah, shucks. Thoughts and prayers.
Leftists celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. Watch this.
Bye, Charlie Kirk. Like you said, people getting shot and killed for the Second Amendment is so worth it. I never thought we'd agree on anything. Bye.
I just wanna be part of your symphony.
By the sword, die by the sword. He did say that gun deaths were an acceptable side effect of gun rights. Congratulations to Charlie Kirk for becoming the new poster child for gun awareness and violence.
Play this video next time someone tells you it's both sides.
The Lee Zeldin stabbing attempt, left wing or right wing? Left wing. The Covenant school shooting in Nashville, left wing or right wing? Left wing. The Butler, Pennsylvania assassination attempt on President Trump, left wing or right wing? Left wing. Burn down cities during the Summer of Love in the George Floyd riots, left wing violence or right wing violence? Left wing. The Waukesha Christmas Parade massacre, left wing or right wing violence? Left wing. The Trump International West Palm Beach assassination attempt, left wing. The Abundant Life Christian school shooting, left wing. The United Care CEO's murder, left wing. Tesla's burned, keyed, damaged, firebombed, left wing, left wing. The murders at the Israeli embassy, left wing. The ICE facilities firebombed, left wing. The Minnesota Catholic school shooting, left wing. The anti-white Charlotte and North Carolina stabbing, left wing. The attempted Utah News State firebombing, left wing. And now, of course, the culmination of this vile trend, a left-wing assassination of of Charlie Kirk. And I would point.
You see a problem there? You see a common thread? Why are these leftists so hateful and so misinformed and say such vile things? What kind of human celebrates the death of someone? Now, I'm guilty of celebrating the death of terrorists, but that's not the same as what we have here. Somehow, these far left liberal, mostly college students, got into their little heads that Charlie Kirk was this horrible, racist, bigot person that said and did horrible things. I wonder where they got that from. Well, we're going to dive into that a little bit tonight, as well as some other things that are happening. But first, you had many places you could be. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I appreciate it, and thank you very, very much. So, let's talk about how our young youth are getting this warped ideology about Donald Trump, about MAGA, Republicans, conservatives, Charlie Kirk. Who could possibly be saying something to get them to believe that? Because they sure as hell aren't watching any of his videos that he did when he went on campuses. Because if they actually listened to what Charlie Kirk said instead of little sound bits and pieces put on by their liberal friends and stuff spewed by, members of our Congress, they actually listened to what Charlie Kirk said, they would know that this isn't true. They actually listen to my podcast and what I say. They would know that I'm not a racist bigot. If they actually listened and paid attention to the good things that are happening to America under this administration compared to the last administration, they would come away with understanding that they're wrong. So let's talk about two people that are very, very big on spreading false information. And you can call this freedom of speech if you want. In some cases, it is. But when elected members of Congress take to a camera and a microphone and blatantly lie to their constituents and anybody listening, whether it's in front of a CNN camera or MSNBC or on the House floor, when they outright lie, well, either they're doing it because they just want to spread fake information because they hate their opponent, as Donald Trump recently said, or they just don't know what the hell they're talking about because they never did their homework and they never listened to what people like Charlie Kirk said. And one of the biggest and most guiltiest people of this, well, let's listen to what she had to say on the House floor.
To be clear about who Charlie Kirk was. A man who believed that the Civil Rights Act that granted Black Americans the right to vote was a mistake. His rhetoric and beliefs were ignorant, uneducated, and sought to disenfranchise millions.
If you're gonna call someone else's rhetoric ignorant, shouldn't you make sure your rhetoric isn't ignorant? The Civil Rights Act didn't give Black Americans the right to vote. The 15th Amendment did that a century earlier. Then, the Voting Rights Act in 1965 removed the barriers that states were still using to block Black people. But here's the deeper problem. AOC is attacking a straw man. Straw manning is when you twist someone's argument into a weaker version, then attack that instead of what they actually said. It's a logical fallacy. And it's what caused people to think Charlie Kirk is a racist. Here was his actual point.
You said the Civil Rights Act was a mistake. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so the parts of the Civil Rights Act were great, but the way it's now being implemented to force men in female bathrooms to push forward of the trans agenda, the intent of the Civil Rights Act is way beyond what it was originally authored for.
But the intent specifically originally was to
Well, that's interesting. So the intent and the law are two different things. So the intent was noble, which was to say that no American can be not allowed into a place of business based on the color of their skin or their ethnic heritage. Totally agreement with that. That's not what the law only did. It created a massive anti-racist DEI army that then gave us affirmative action.
I could do this all day because Charlie made this argument many times. Charlie supported the Civil Rights Act's intention to protect Black Americans from discrimination. His argument was that the law left loopholes, which are now being twisted to justify men and women's sports or racial discrimination in college admissions. AOC didn't just push this straw man once. She repeated it in emails. She pushed it on social media. And she was online when she sent those. 30 seconds with AI could have told her the context. All she had to do was ask, I heard Charlie said X. What's the context? Or what are the strongest arguments for and against this claim? That's how you steel man an argument. That's how you avoid straw manning. You can disagree with Charlie without misrepresenting the past. Lies got him killed. And if this doesn't stop, he won't be the last.
Freedom of speech? Does she have the right, as a member of Congress, to stand on the House floor and lie about a man who was assassinated by a far-left liberal and make up shit that's not true? Say things that Charlie Kirk said that aren't true. Freedom of speech is no longer protected when violence occurs because of what you said incited it. We'll dive in a little bit more to that shortly. But what other member of Congress could possibly be spreading false information about Charlie, about Trump, Republicans, MAGA, conservatives? Who could that possibly be? None other than Jasmine Ghetto Crockett.
So meanwhile, you obviously feel very strongly about the rhetoric that Charlie Kirk used that you find objectionable, and also from others in the MAGA movement. As the memorial service for him is going to happen later today, there is a debate over heated rhetoric on all sides. And,
listen, whether it's heated or not, the fact is Charlie Kirk should still be here. It should not have been that there was political violence that resulted because of the words that were coming out of his mouth, just like plenty of MAGA hates when I mention white supremacy, which kind of tells you where MAGA stands, but never.
So let me stop right there for a second. She started off saying Charlie Kirk didn't deserve what happened to him. But this ghetto bitch couldn't stop at that, could she? No, now she's got to start taking down MAGA and calling us white supremacists.
Nevertheless, they get very upset when I talk about white supremacy, but that doesn't mean that somebody should then try to find a bullet or try to find a knife and harm me. Not in America. That's not who we are supposed to be.
Well, let me ask you, because I do want to play a couple of statements that you made earlier this year.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we have someone that is occupying the White House, and as far as I'm concerned, he is an enemy to the United States.
They want to show that they are loyal to this, I don't even know what to call him. I've called him so many things, but this wannabe Hitler for sure.
And to be clear, the president has attacked, other people have attacked you in his orbit, maybe not him personally. But do you have a responsibility as an elected official not to raise the temperature, but rather lower the temperature, particularly when there are people out there who listen to elected officials all over the place who are not well, who use that as a way to instigate the political violence that you are calling out?
So here's her opportunity to call it out for what it is and to admit she was wrong by calling Trump Hitler or Hitler wannabe. Because I think all Americans that know anything about Nazi Germany and World War II and pre-war agree that Hitler deserved what he got. He deserved to be dead. All the Nazis deserve to be dead. That's just, we can all agree on that. So if you're telling youth that Trump is a Nazi and they look up to you because you're an elected official. You're a member of the United States Congress. They believe you. And they're not all mentally there, some of them. So they listen to what you say, and they go out and they take action. Especially if they Googled, well, who is Hitler? Because they didn't know. And then they see who Hitler was, and they go, ha, that man needs to die. So here's our opportunity to bring down the tone, to admit her faults. Do you think that's what she's about to do? You're right. If you think that's what she's about to do, then you're smoking some Hunter Biden crack.
I think that my responsibility is to be transparent and to be honest. And the reality is that we are living in a time in which this administration and this regime is not interested in making sure that people understand history. We need to understand why they are so problematic. And so I am using that language because it is accurate language. When we see the consolidation of power, when we see them trying to chill speech of jokesters, when we're seeing all of this, that is a playbook out of Hitler, and I won't deny it. Like, these are the facts. But one of the things that I've never done that the president has done consistently is called specifically for violence. He has said, oh, beat that one up. He has said those types of things. We know that Charlie Kirk was saying things about who should live and who should die. I have never said those kinds of things. And I think that those things are the ones that are really, really dangerous. And even still, some of that will still be protected. We know that we still have laws that are on the book that certain speech is not protected, that it does cross over when you are inciting violence, such as what we saw on January 6th. When you are doing what we consider to be a terroristic threat of some sort, where it's a matter of, I'm not just saying it, but I have the apparent ability to carry that out. But me laying out historical facts, just like they don't want to talk about the fact that slavery was real in this country and that my people were enslaved and dragged and raped and abused, and they don't want to account for any of that. They don't believe in reparations. No, I think it is okay for me to understand history and communicate in a very clear way about why we should feel as if there is a concern. And when we swear an oath, which is what that first clip was, we swear an oath to the Constitution to protect against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so if there is someone that is evidencing themselves, such as the president, who is going out and says, yes, I will take a $400 million plane from a foreign government, or is engaged in receiving crypto that we cannot track in exchange for, say, giving away chips to Saudi Arabia. No, we absolutely need to understand how these things could cause us harm. Or when he's cozying up to somebody like Vladimir Putin, it's not only a problem for us, but it's a problem for our allies. When you have somebody like Poland that is like, yeah, this is what Russia's up to, and the president is like, oh, that may have just been a mistake. We need to understand what all his business dealings are, even with Russia, because that has the potential of putting us in harm's way.
Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, thank you so much for being here. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
And Dana Bash had the opportunity to go, what are you talking about? Any legitimate journalist with any types of morals would have said, time out, madam. You're calling MAGA and Trump and Charlie Kirk, for that matter, racist, bigots, Hitler, Nazis? That's inciting violence. But no, CNN didn't do that. They attempted to give her the opportunity twice to come clean on this. And she doubled down on stupid. So let's just talk for a moment about our First Amendment rights. First Amendment of the United States Constitution fiercely protects almost all forms of speech, even speech that is offensive, hateful, or politically incorrect. Unlike Canada or many European nations, the United States does not have sweeping hate speech laws The government has no business regulating what people are allowed to say simply because it might hurt someone's feelings. That said, the First Amendment does not protect everything. There are a few narrow but critical exceptions. True threats, speech that conveys a real, serious intent to commit unlawful violence. Well, if you're referring to conservatives and Republicans and Trump as Hitler and a threat to our democracy, that's telling these young kids who are mentally not stable, I need to go out and do something about this. Incitement to immediate lawless action. Actively encouraging others to commit crimes, not just disagreeable opinions or mean words, but clear and immediate calls to break the law. Again, is calling somebody no different than Hitler and a threat to our democracy? A dictator? They need to be removed? Targeted harassment and intimidation. Speech that crosses a line into legally defined harassment or stalking. Well, legally defined harassment is Alejandro Mar, Rashida Tlaib, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, all calling Trump, MAGA supporters, MAGA, conservatives, Republicans, racists, bigots, Nazis, a threat to democracy. Every day. That comes out of their mouth on social media and in the halls of Congress. Is that not harassment and stalking? Obscenity, child exploitation, defamation, and fraud. Well, defamation is definitely up there, isn't it? Ironically, many in today's Democrat leadership in Congress are guilty of skirting or outright crossing these legal lines. From inciting political violence to engaging in targeted harassment of citizens and their opponents, because you can't win an argument any other way. Yet somehow they face little to no accountability while preaching about hate speech and dangerous rhetoric. Let's be clear. The term hate speech has no legal definition under U.S. law. It's a subject label often used to silence oppositions that powerful institutions don't like. Speech that criticizes someone for their ideas or actions, even harshly, is protected. But speech that threatens, harasses, or incites violence is not. And much of what passes for political leadership on the left today is skating dangerously close to the latter. Meanwhile, regular Americans, especially those who lean right, are getting banned from social media, fired from jobs, and silenced in classrooms for speech that is legally, completely protected, simply because it offends the left's progressive agenda. That's not justice. That's censorship. But on the other side, liberals and Democrats face little to no pushback until just recently. Why? Because people on the right are being attacked, shot, and killed. That's the difference. Let me make my position crystal clear when it comes to my podcast, The Douglas Ducote Show. I have never called for violence against another person. You will not find that on any of my videos throughout my entire video library. I've never celebrated someone's death unless you count terrorist. I've never attacked anyone based on their race, their religion, sexual orientation, or disability. These are things that the liberals do every single day. And as you just watched, AOC and Jasmine Crockett. And I never spread falsehoods. If I've said something about someone, it's because it was true. Yes, I've called out racist bigots for saying racist, bigoted things. That's not hate speech. That's the truth. Yes, I've called some people ignorant or stupid when they've done or said some ignorant or stupid things. That's not hate speech either. That's reality. You don't have to like what I say on the Douglas Ducote podcast. You don't have to like what Donald Trump says. You don't even have to like what Republican members of Congress say. But here's the bottom line. Facts matter. The law matters. And free speech in America is not subject to your feelings. The left is calling for political violence, as far as I'm concerned, and we're seeing it happen. So then, because of Charlie Kirk being killed, now businesses all across America and the globe, for that matter, are cracking down on their employees that are saying horrible and hateful things about the man's death. They're being suspended or fired, put on leave, from teachers, airline pilots, construction workers, people working at grocery stores, Walmart, you name the company, they got somebody right now either on leave or has been fired for the things that they've said or did on social media about Charlie Kirk. Those companies have that right to do that because you sign a piece of paper about what their rules and regulations are for their employees when you get hired. And if you break that, they have the right to discipline you or terminate you, which we're seeing happen. But the poster boy for this that the liberals and the Democrats up in D.C. are just all up in arms about was Jimmy Kimmel getting suspended, indefinite. How dare Trump do that? Well, first off, Trump didn't do that. The people that put on that show did that. They said, that's not acceptable, what you said, sir. And it's not. Should he have the right to be able to say that? Is it freedom of speech for a comic to get up and say what he did? That's not for me to determine. I don't work for Disney. I'm not a CEO at Disney or these corporations at ABC, for instance, that made this determination that the guy's got to go. But the left went batshit crazy, reaching out to Disney, pounding them over and over and over again that this is wrong. You don't do this to Republicans. You don't do this to conservatives. I dare you do it to one of ours. Even the members of Congress and Democrat Party are saying that this isn't right. You can't do this. You can't. Cancel culture is wrong. Really? Rosanna Barr, fired by ABC and Disney, and her hit show Rosanna canceled overnight back in 2018 after one tweet. Hundreds of cast and crew lost their job. She's a Republican. Gina Carrero, fired in 2021 for social media posts that didn't fit the left's policies. She was also dropped by her agent. Megyn Kelly, fired by NBC in 2018. Her morning show canceled after comments about Halloween costumes. Dave Chappelle. Netflix employees staged a walkout and demanded his comic special be pulled for transphobia. The left tried hard to cancel him. Joe Rogan, the left pressured Spotify to drop him, running coordinated campaigns and advertisers boycotts over his COVID decisions. Tucker Carlson, taken off Fox News in 2023. Liberal activists bragged about advertisers' pressure campaigns that helped force him out, costing thousands of downstream jobs. Parler, Apple, Google, and Amazon colluded in 2021 to wipe the entire platform off the internet. Tens of thousands of small creators and businesses lost income overnight that were conservatives and Republicans. J.K. Rowling, blacklisted for events, attacked by activists, and pressured projects for speaking her mind. Mike Lindell, my pillow guy, pulled from major retailers, banned from Twitter, and targeted advertiser boycotts. Alex Jones, banned in 2018 by YouTube, Facebook, Apple, and Spotify. Coordinated, left, ensured, and celebrated as a model for censorship 101. Patterns are clear. Coordinated advertised boycotts, public celebrations of people losing jobs and businesses. Two sets of rules. The left can lie. Russia hoax, Covington kid smear, Julius Smollett, etc. And laugh about it. But the right gets destroyed. Accountability only ever goes one way. The left has spent the last decade perfecting cancel culture, destroying jobs, nuking shows, wiping platforms off the internet, and laughing while people's lives were ruined. But sure, Jimmy Kimmel smugly lying about a political assassination is totally fine. He lied, just like AOC and Jasmine Crockett. He lied on national television and said that the shooter was a Republican, a conservative. He was MAGA. He was one of us. That's spreading false information, and then it becomes people believe that. These liberals listen to what he said, and they believe that shit, even though it's not true. And we know that, yes, his parents were Republican. His dad was also a former deputy sheriff. We know they said they voted for Donald Trump. But that's the only thing near a Republican that this kid had. His own parents, his own siblings, his own relatives have come out and said, over the last 2 years, he's become this radical leftist lunatic, believing all this shit he hears from Democrat members of Congress and the liberal media and talk show hosts like Jimmy Kimmel, telling him that we're all a bunch of racist bigots and we need to die. So, is it still freedom of speech when you, on purpose, stare into a camera, live or not, and outright lie and say something that's going to incite someone else to then go out and take action on your behalf because of your words? Is that protected? Look, I served this country honorably to protect our rights in the Constitution. I'm going to tell you that I believe that what we're hearing from the Democrat leadership up in Washington, D.C., and these late night talk show hosts, is not protected speech under the Constitution, because their words are causing action on the streets. That is not okay. People are being injured, hurt, and killed because of this rhetoric. Now, I asked you yesterday in a post on in the community section on my YouTube channel, on Facebook, to reach out to the House Ethics Committee. You can go to their website, right at the top, click on the link to file a complaint. And you can copy and paste what I said. I don't care, or use your own words, but I even posted what I said. It's only 6 blocks that you fill out and then hit send to file a complaint against AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Jasmine Crockett, these racist people that are saying these horrible, despicable things. Because it's not okay. It's not. If nobody was being hurt, injured, or killed, if buildings weren't being burned down, if businesses weren't being looted, if cops weren't being physically attacked, if conservatives weren't being shot and killed, then I wouldn't be this upset about it. How many people on the right, conservatives and Republicans, if we don't get our way, go out and do what we're seeing the left do? Do we burn down shit? Do we loot businesses? Do we attack police officers? Do we try and assassinate Donald Trump? Do we kill Charlie Kirk? Or anybody we disagree with? That's the problem with the left and the Democrats up in Washington, D.C. If you don't believe what we're telling you, we're not open for debate on this. Where conservatives and Republicans want to debate you on it. Let's hear it. Tell me your side. Maybe I can understand where you're coming from. I'm going to tell you my side. Maybe you can understand where I'm coming from. Or maybe we will just agree to disagree. In general, there's only one side that I see that's willing to debate, and that's all Charlie Kirk was doing. He let anybody take the microphone and debate him. That's what he did. And that's what they didn't like. Because they thought they were going to get this I gotcha moment and post it on social media. Look, I proved the powerful Charlie Kirk wrong. But instead, they walked away with their tail between their legs, like a wounded animal, because they couldn't counter factual information based on their lies that they heard from Democrat members of Congress and liberals across this nation. We're going to talk just about 2 more things in regards to this, and then we're going to move on to some other subjects. And this is a prime example of why I'm no longer a Democrat and why I left that party. Because of their hatred. Nearly 5 dozen House Democrats voted against a resolution honoring the life and legacy of assassinated Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk Friday. Lawmakers voted 310 to 58 to approve the resolution introduced by House Speaker Mike Johnson and 165 GOP lawmakers. House Democrats, including Texas Representative Jasmine Ghetto Crockett, and New York Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, rejected the measure, celebrating Kirk's life by citing their disagreement with his political views. A disagreement that they didn't even know what they were disagreeing with because they didn't listen to what he actually said. And if they did, and they still disagree with it, then they're anti-American. House Minority Leader Hankam Jeffries and his leadership team voted for the measure. Go figure. 38 House Democrats voted present, which is the same thing as voting against. And 22 Democrat lawmakers did not even vote, which is voting against. Such acts of political motivated violence are against the principles of free republic, in which differences of opinions are to be debated, not silenced, with civility, reason, and mutual respect. The resolution reads in part: Kirk was assassinated, as we know, on September 10th during a speaking event at Utah Valley University. And we have the shooter in custody, and he's going to be charged. Leaves behind a widow and 2 small children. House Democrat leadership broadcast their support for the bill in a closed-door meeting, though. But Jeffries did not issue a recommendation to the members on how to vote. The National Republican Congressional Committee, House Republicans' campaign arm, torched Democrats for voting against the resolution honoring Kirk's legacy and denouncing political violence. The modern Democrat Party is simply too radical and unhinged to condemn a politically motivated assassination and honor a man and a father of 2 whose only crime was loving America, winning the debate in the proper fashion, and inspiring others to do the same. NRCC spokesman Mike Minorly said in a statement. The Senate passed a similar resolution by unanimously consent earlier in the week. The upper chamber also passed a resolution to establish a national day of remembrance for Charlie Kirk, which will be taking place on October 14th every year of his birthday. So the Senate Democrats have morals and values. The House Democrats are a bunch of lost souls. And then the last thing I'm going to say about this, the Congressional Black Caucus. Now, first let me say this. Imagine what would happen if some of the Republican members of Congress decided we're going to have a Congressional White Caucus. Only white people can be a part of this caucus. What would happen? So why do we have a Congressional Black Caucus? You don't see the racism here in the Democrat Party? I do. Congressional Black Caucus statement on Charlie Kirk resolution. September 19th, 2025. I've got it right here, and I'm going to read you the statement. Today, Congressional Black Caucus Chair Yvette D. Clarke, Democrat, and members of the Congressional Black Caucus issue the following statement. Violence has no place in our politics. Rather, it is in the murder of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hartman, the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol, or the killing of Charlie Kirk. We must unequivocally reject violence in all its forms. Too many times in our nation's history, political differences have turned violence. Violence that our community in particular knows too well from the assassination of Black leaders like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, and Fred Hampton, among others. At the same time, We must condemn violence without abandoning our right to speak out against ideas that are inconsistent with our values as Americans. We strongly disagree with many beliefs Charlie Kirk promoted, including his belief that the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which ended racial segregation, was a mistake. Are they that fucking dumb that they didn't listen? I've already showed you what Charlie Kirk actually said. They can do that. Hell, they can use ChatGPT on their fucking cell phone, for crying out loud. Google it, for crying out loud, before you release some kind of bullshit statement like this. Charlie Kirk denial that systemic racism exists. Never has he done that. His promotion of the Great Replacement theory and his offensive claims about Justice Brown Jackson, Michelle Obama, and Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee lacking adequate mental ability. If you fucking idiots would actually go and listen to what he said instead of just the little small clips that came out on social media, you would know that you're a bunch of lying fools. The resolution introduced in the House to honor Kirk's legacy is not about healing, lowering the temperature of our political discourse, or even ensuring the safety of members of Congress, staff, and Capitol personnel. It is, unfortunately, an attempt to legitimize Kirk's worldview, a worldview that includes ideas many Americans find racist, harmful, and fundamentally un-American. Get the fuck out of here. In the wake of this tragedy, President Trump has senselessly threatened to go after a political left. You didn't watch that happen for 4 years against us? The American people are tired of this kind of cynical politics. It's disheartening to see a tragedy used to further divide the country and suppress honest debate. What a bunch of lying sacks of shit. That's the Congressional Black Caucus lying in this statement. And CBC has been responsible to speak out against this on behalf of our communities. We're calling on each of our colleagues who share our values to follow suit. Enough is enough. From the Congressional Black Caucus, established in 1971. A bunch of black Democrat congressmen and women that just put out a statement, just like what you saw AOC do, just like what you saw Jasmine Crockett do, just like what you've seen Alejandro Omar do and Rashida Tlaib do, that's not true. It's lies. It's spreading hate. Now, with things like that happening, thankfully, another Democrat has seen the light. South Dakota Representative Pereira Poyer, who is American Indian, had been a Democrat, announced yesterday that she has switched her voter registration to Republican. A Democrat representative for South Dakota is leaving the Democrat Party. Thank God. I formally changed my voter registration from Democrat to Republican. My name will now appear with an R designation, she said in her statement. The move leaves just 5 Democrats in the Mount Rushmore State House compared to a whopping 65 Republicans. She suggested the key pillars of the GOP line up with principles for tribal sovereignty, because she's an Indian, the core tenets of the Republican Party: decentralized government, self-determination, economic prosperity, lower energy costs, and stronger public safety align with the principles that I have and the tribal sovereignties have, she noted. By contrast, well-intentional Democrat reforms have too often undermined Indian reservations. Under President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the Indian Recognition Act of 1934 forced a one-size-fits-all model of governance and degraded traditional systems and tied federal funding to this imposed framework. What was presented as empowerment ultimately diminished nationhood, reinforced federal control, and depleted any hope of self-sufficiency. The long-term consequences of such federal policies' failures are still felt on the Payne Ridge Reservation today, he said. Madam, welcome to the Republican Party, where hopefully more and more Democrat members of Congress will wake up and realize that they no longer are part of what most Americans want to see for our country, which is safety and freedom. Now, you may have heard Donald Trump come out yesterday and have a press conference about Tylenol and linking it to autism. And the left and the Democrats are having a meltdown that Trump is a liar, that Kennedy, as head of the CDC, is a liar. I know you've seen it. It's all over social media. Well, CNN headline news: pregnant people should not be afraid to take Tylenol, experts say, going against unproven claims made by the Trump administration that it can cause autism. In a news briefing on Monday, President Donald Trump repeatedly issued a broad warning: if you're pregnant, don't take Tylenol. When you have your baby, don't give your baby Tylenol at all unless it's absolutely necessary. But years of research have led major medical organizations in the United States to support the use of Tylenol to treat pain and fever during pregnancy, with recommendations reflecting that the benefits outweigh any potential risk. Is that kind of like the vaccine that y'all forced on us? Today's White House event on autism was filled with dangerous claims and misleading information that sends a confusing message to parents and expecting parents, and does a disservice to autistic individuals. Dr. Susan Crisley, president of the American Academy of Pediatrics, said in a statement, there are significant limitations on the conclusions that can be drawn from the research on the link between Tylenol and autism, experts say, and no new research was presented on Monday's briefing. Tylenol is widely considered among the best and safest options to treat pain and fever during pregnancy. American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists say that Tylenol, also known as paracetamol, is safe to use during pregnancy and recommends it as a first-line treatment. And the group confirmed Monday that it is not planning to change that guidance. The Society of Maternal Fetal Medicine also reaffirmed its guidance that Tylenol is an appropriate medication to treat pain and fever during pregnancy. Pregnant patients should discuss any medication used during pregnancy with their provider, the organization says, but the weight of evidence is inconclusive regarding the possible cause relationship between Tylenol use and the neurobehavior disorders in the offspring. March of Dimes, a nonprofit focused on infant and maternal health, agrees. When families are going through pregnancy or navigating life of a new baby, they have many questions. Access to accurate, science-based information to answers those questions can help ensure that every mom is healthy and every baby gets the best possible start. Chief Medical and Health Officer Dr. Michael Warren said in a statement, Tylenol is one of the safest and most effective options for managing pain and fever during pregnancy when taken as directed by a healthcare provider, he said. Fever during pregnancy can carry significant risk for the mom and the baby. Decades of research have found that Tylenol is safe for children when administered as recommended, the American Academy of Pediatrics said in a statement. Misleading claims that the medicine is not safe and is linked to increased rates of autism sends confusing, dangerous messages to parents and expected parents and does a disservice to autistic individuals. The body of research exploring the link between autism and Tylenol used during pregnancy is not conclusive, and there's even less research looking at autism related to Tylenol used during infancy or early childhood. The most important thing that was said during the conference today is that autism is a complex and multifactorial ideology, and that it is the truth. Dr. James McParlin, a child psychologist and director of the Yale Developmental Disabilities Clinic, told CNN, what that means is that autism is complicated and there's not one cause. So I, Douglas Ducote, dive deeper into Trump's claim and CNN's claim. CNN put this out there as breaking news that Trump's a liar. He's spreading false information about Tylenol, linking it to autism. So who's right? Well, you can either listen to CNN or you can fact check CNN and you can fact check Donald Trump. And that's what I did. First thing I did was I went to ChatGPT. Bam! That's one of the cool things about AI is that you get instant gratification with real sources of information. And what I found was that Trump's right and CNN is spreading medical disinformation. Well, Doug, prove that to us. Okay. Recent studies actually show, and we're talking several studies, have found that prenatal exposure to Tylenol is associated with higher risk of neurodevelopmental disorders, including autism spectrum disorder and attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. For example, a study this year, along with 46 studies from the Mount Sinai Harvard Institute, applied a rigorous methodology called the Navigation Guide and found that better quality studies tend to show an association between prenatal use of Tylenol use as an increased risk of autism and ADHD. That study can be found at Harvard Chan School and Mount Sinai Health Systems, Liberals, Democrats, and CNN. The same review noted more risk with higher frequency or longer durations of Tylenol use during pregnancy. Some proposed mechanisms in animals or in vitro studies include Tylenol crosses the placenta and causes defects. It might lead to oxidized stress, hormonal disruptions, and changes that could potentially affect brain development. That study conducted on these lab rats was done by Mount Sinai Health System. Confounded by inactions, for example, fever reduction during pregnancy itself can harm fetal development. Mothers who take Tylenol might have more fevers and infections. Complications interrupted, whether it's the drug, the underlying condition, or both. That was from Yale School of Public Health. Here's what medical regulatory organizations say. The Food and Drug Administration has, as of September 2025, initiated the process of labeling change for Tylenol to reflect evidence suggesting a possible association between its use in pregnancy and a risk of neurodevelopment conditions, ADHD, and autism. But the FDA also states that causal relationships have not been established as 100% gold. What we can conclude so far, there is consistent, moderate evidence of a possible association between prenatal Tylenol use, especially frequent or prolonged use, and neurodevelopment outcomes, including autism and ADHD. In many cases, alternatives to Tylenol carry their own risk. So discussions about pain or fever treatment should be taken up with your doctor. Practical implications, current recommendations. If pregnant and needing to treat fever or pain, Tylenol remains one of the most recommended options because many others, like ibuprofen, have risk or higher risk, especially in certain trimesters. Use the lowest effective dose of Tylenol for the shortest reasonable duration and only for indications where it's needed for high fever or significant pain. Avoid unnecessary or chronic use may reduce possible risk. And this is from the Biomed Central. And of course, always discuss with a healthcare provider if there are concerns, especially if there are repeated fevers, infections, or other risk factors. So, I was shut down for spreading what YouTube claimed was false medical information about the vaccines. Of course, now we know that I was proven correct because the information that I was sharing with you was coming from my own doctors, not left-wing liberal nut jobs on YouTube. I was sharing with you information from VA doctors, from my own personal physicians, from family members that are physicians. And I was told by YouTube that I was spreading medical misinformation. Well, I just proved to you, YouTube, that CNN is doing the exact same thing right now. But I wasn't, and it's been proven that I was right. Thousands of people died because of some of the vaccines that came out and we were told were going to be excellent and they were safe. And even under the Biden administration, they started pulling some of these vaccines and banning them without admitting what we were being told by the science, and that is that they weren't safe. Athletes, young athletes, football, basketball, baseball, high school, college, dropping dead after getting a vaccine for COVID. And yet, I was spreading medical misinformation. CNN, you're just like Jasmine Crockett and AOC and Rashida Tlaib and Alejandro Mar and all the rest of the Democrats up there in the House. You're liars. You just lie. You make up shit. You put out a piece that I just read that completely destroys and says that Donald Trump is lying. And then I turned around by just using ChatGPT and AI and proved that he wasn't lying. And that's why so many people have turned off CNN and MSNBC, and they're turning to people like me to get their news. Because I don't account, the only person I'm accountable for, or two, the only people I'm accountable to are you, the listener, who I encourage to fact check what I say. You don't see them doing that. Anyhow, I went way over my time tonight. You had many places you could be. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. I thank you very, very much. If you haven't already done so, whether you're watching me tonight live on YouTube or Rumble channel or our X channel, please like, subscribe, tell your friends and family about our podcast, about the channels, share the videos, share the live shows on your social media platforms. Help us spread the word, and also subscribe. I will be back on Thursday night for another live podcast. Hope that you will join me. If anything breaks of major importance between now and then, I'll be sure to do a video about it, or I'll come on live and talk about it. We're also discussing, and I put up a thing in a community section asking you what you thought about me doing the show 3 days a week, doing it not just Tuesdays and Thursdays, but doing it Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, because there's so much happening that there's so many things that need to be talked about that I don't have time to do it when I'm doing it in only 2 shows a week. Some of the things many of you said, yes, please. Some of you said, nobody said no that I saw. I did see people say that, you should spend more time with your family if you need to, because they know how big of a family man I am. They know all the stuff I do with my special needs son, whether it's Special Olympic stuff, whether it's taking the boat out. They know the stuff I do with my wife. They know the trips that I take. And they were concerned that, I'm going to affect that. It won't. It's not going to affect it at all. So we haven't made that decision yet. We're not going to be live tomorrow night unless something major happens. But we will be back next week when we do come back. And I do believe, and I'll make the announcement about it between now and then, but I do believe we're going to start doing the show Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central. I think that's going to be the right thing to do, so I can cover more things that are happening that are important to American patriots. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless each and every one of you. Have a wonderful evening, my friends. God bless you all, and I'll see you back here on Thursday night.